The man who defined American toughness, the cowboy with no name, the cop who made his own rules, spent decades saying he came from nowhere. Migrant family, depression struggles, the ultimate self-made American. There was just one problem. When genealogists traced his bloodline, they found something that changed everything we thought we knew about Clint Eastwood. The 1940 U.S. Census tells a story that doesn't match the legend. Clint Eastwood, age 9, is listed as a student living at 355 North Crescent Avenue in Piedmont, California. The census ledger, microfilm T6-26148, records a family home valued at $2,500, solidly middle class for the time. The household owned 2 cars, a rare luxury in a country still clawing its way out of the Great Depression. Eastwood's father, Clinton Sr., isn't described as a drifter or a day laborer. He's marked down as a truck driver, a steady job with a regular paycheck. Yet in interviews decades later, Eastwood would recall a life shaped by hardship and movement, painting his family as migrants with little to their name. The hard numbers on the census roll challenge that image. Piedmont in 1940 was a quiet, leafy suburb, more likely to host company men and professionals than itinerant workers. The Eastwoods' neighbors included lawyers, engineers, and small business owners. The census doesn't capture every detail, but it does set the record straight on a few things. The Eastwoods weren't scraping by in a shanty or drifting from town to town. They had a roof, 2 cars, and a father with stable work. For anyone who grew up hearing only the Hollywood version, these records offer a dose of reality. The real story, it turns out, starts not with struggle on the open road, but with a family grounded in the American middle class, ready for a deeper look into just how far back those roots really go. The story of Clint Eastwood's roots doesn't just start in California. It stretches all the way back to the wind-battered decks of the Mayflower. On his mother's side, Eastwood is the 10th great-grandson of Governor William Bradford, the man who helped lead the Pilgrims across the Atlantic in 1620 and shaped the earliest days of Plymouth Colony. This isn't a rumor or a story passed down at the dinner table. The General Society of Mayflower Descendants, known for their strict standards, has certified Eastwood's lineage with certificate number 3126. Every link in the chain, from Bradford to Eastwood's mother, Margaret Ruth Runner, rests on original birth records, land deeds, and marriage licenses spanning nearly 4 centuries. The names in this chain, Bradford, Harlow, Cook, Warren, Runner, read like a roll call from American history textbooks. Each generation survived wars, epidemics, and the push westward, leaving a paper trail that historians can follow from colonial Massachusetts to modern-day Texas and California. The Runner family, for instance, moved west in the 1800s, eventually settling in the Bay Area decades before Clint was born. Eastwood's connection to Bradford isn't as rare as it might sound. Experts estimate that about 35 million Americans share Mayflower ancestry. Still, being a direct descendant of the colony's governor puts him in a select group whose roots run as deep as the nation itself. The fact that a man celebrated for his self-made image is actually a 12th generation American, with a bloodline certified by the very society that guards the Pilgrim legacy, turns the old Hollywood story on its head. For anyone who ever wondered what secrets might be hiding in their own family tree, Eastwood's example offers both a surprise and an invitation to look closer. Waldo Errol Runner's name rarely comes up in Hollywood interviews, but his signature is all over the story of Clint Eastwood's family. In 1940, Runner was living at 530 Loomis Street in Piedmont, California, a neighborhood known for its quiet streets and well-kept homes. The property was valued at $12,800, more than double the city's median home price at the time. That kind of real estate, in the middle of the Great Depression's aftermath, wasn't for the struggling or the transient. It was for people who had made it. Runner wasn't just a homeowner, he was a railroad executive and a founding figure at the Gray Bar Company, a major player in the West Coast's industrial boom. The 1940 census labels him as managerial class, and Graybar's payroll records put his salary at $7,800 a year, about $140,000 in today's money. He drove a 1939 Chevrolet Master, registered to the Loomis address at a time when fewer than 1 in 5 families in Alameda County owned a car. Property tax rolls show the runners paying $540 a year, a figure that put them in the company of doctors, lawyers, and other executives. Inside the runner home, life followed the patterns of the professional class. Children enrolled in good schools, a homemaker wife, and access to city clubs and civic life. Waldo Runner's business ties and social standing placed the family among Piedmont's established elite, not its working poor. The contrast between these hard records and the later stories of hardship is striking. For viewers used to thinking of Eastwood as the ultimate self-made man, the real family background looks more like a foundation built on stability, privilege, and a long line of inherited opportunity. In 1692, William Stoughton sat at the center of one of America's darkest chapters. As chief magistrate of the Salem witch trials, Stoughton signed the orders that sent 19 people to the gallows and pressed Giles Corey to death for refusing to plead. Court records from that year show Stoughton's signature beneath the execution warrants, his authority unquestioned in a colony gripped by fear. He wasn't just a legal power, he was a landowner too, holding over 1,200 acres in Massachusetts, a fortune in the New World. Stoughton's decisions, recorded in the trial transcripts and land inventories, shaped the fate of entire families. His willingness to allow so-called spectral evidence, testimony about dreams and visions, meant that suspicion alone could end a life. The legacy of those trials is still debated today, but the bloodline remains. Through the Runner family, Clint Eastwood is related to Stoughton, tying his ancestry to a figure whose power and judgment left a permanent mark on American history. The story of Eastwood's roots isn't just about pioneers and governors, it's also about the complicated shadows cast by those who held sway over life and death. American family trees are tangled with more than just pioneers and preachers. Sometimes they climb all the way to the White House. In Clint Eastwood's case, the connections run deeper than most would guess. Through his mother's side, Eastwood is a distant cousin to George Washington, traced through John Marmaduke, an early Virginia landholder whose descendants married into the Washington family. The same bloodline stretches north, linking Eastwood to John Adams and John Quincy Adams through a series of New England marriages documented in probate records and the Presidential Kinship Database. The Roosevelt connection comes through the Morris family. Lewis Morris, a signer of the Declaration of Independence and ancestor of Franklin D. Roosevelt, appears on the same branch as Eastwood's maternal line. These ties aren't just trivia. They show how the old American elite, families with land, influence, and a knack for marrying well, shaped the country's leadership for generations. For Eastwood, the story isn't only about a self-made cowboy or a Depression-era childhood. It's about a bloodline that runs straight through the heart of American power, linking him to presidents who helped define the nation's course. In a country where millions share similar roots without ever knowing it, Eastwood's pedigree is a reminder. The story of who we are might be bigger and older than we think. The story doesn't stop with politicians and judges. Clint Eastwood's family tree stretches right into the heart of Hollywood itself. According to the Western Heritage Association and famous kin charts, Eastwood is an 8th cousin of John Wayne, linked through a shared ancestor named McCoy. The irony is hard to miss, two of the most iconic cowboys in movie history riding in from the same bloodline. But the web of connections doesn't end there. Eastwood is also a 7th cousin of Walt Disney, their lines meeting at Mary Bradford Disney, a descendant of the same Governor Bradford who led the Mayflower Pilgrims. That makes the man behind Dirty Harry a distant cousin of the man who built Disneyland. Even more surprising, the same genealogical charts show Eastwood sharing roots with Humphrey Bogey and Katharine Hepburn, linking classic Hollywood royalty through generations of colonial families. For anyone who thought these legends sprang from humble beginnings or separate worlds, the records tell a different story. The bloodlines of America's cultural giants are tangled together in ways few would ever guess. If Eastwood's story proves anything, it's that the myth of the lone self-made man is just that, a myth. Sometimes the real drama is in the family tree, a drama. Today, 35 million Americans share Mayflower roots, most without ever knowing it. Eastwood's story proves a bloodline can run deeper than any myth. Who are you really descended from? Until you trace your roots, your own family history might be the biggest surprise of all. Share your story below.